Guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode, or this could be the first episode of this new series, the Dream Big Series 3, or Season 3. Done 2 seasons already, which is my competitive seasons, so competing years, or preps, and this is number 3, so pretty exciting. Off season's done. What I'm kind of going to do today, just give you a heads up if you're just watching or you're new to the channel, or you want to know what I'm kind of going to talk about. Literally just going to go back and talk about my off season. Maybe a bit about coming off stage in 2023, all through till the off season, and the whole way through until now, and then a little bit on plans for this competitive season. So if you want to listen to me for God knows how long, stay tuned. If not, feel free to leave. But I kind of feel like this information is pretty good. If you're wanting to kind of know what coming off stage, wanting to make improvements, wanting to make a drastic change, or a drastic improvement, to then the timeline that it takes to then go back on stage and beat your last time, and level up as much as possible. And that's kind of what we've done in this off season. So this has been kind of the longest off season I've ever done, really, with Luke anyway. Obviously before Luke, I was kind of just doing my own thing. But in terms of like between shows, this has been the longest time we spent away from stage. And it's been necessary, it is needed. I competed in 2023 in the novice class. What did I do? I won two shows and became British champ in the novice category. That was my last show of the year, which was October 2023. And then started the off season. I knew from us winning that show, or those shows, we knew we had to level up next time. And I didn't want to go back as a novice. I don't think I could actually from winning the British champ, but so we knew anyway we were going to have to level up and look at the open class, which was a big class. I stood next to some of those guys in the, I can't remember what it was. At the end of the show, when they bring everyone on, the overalls. Sorry, this is how long I've been out of competitive talk. The overalls. So I stood against some of the guys in the overalls. Big guys, bigger than me when I was back in 2023. I think I was about 110 kilo on stage. I'm not sure what that is in pounds, but 110 kilo on stage. So we knew we had to take, a good amount of time out from competing, and allow myself to grow tissue, and add kilos onto the frame, and add some good amount of stage weight. So we decided to take the full year off, the whole of 2024, just to spend growing tissue and packing on as much tissue as possible. And yeah, the off season went well. It was, I'm not gonna lie, it was definitely the hardest one I've ever done, for sure. Mentally, very, very taxing, grueling, day to day, knowing how long I was going to spend in this time period, and dealing with a lot of things. Just from a standpoint, it's going to be the standard off-season feelings, but pushing limits with food, pushing limits with training. I got injured back in, I'm pretty sure this is after prep, after shows. I got injured back in August 2024, with a slight knee niggle on my right knee, which kind of took me out of leg training for about 3 or 4 months, which was tough, mentally tough. So I had to deal with that, come out of that. I'm still kind of dealing with it a bit now, but I'm able to train legs this last improvements phase, because we did 3 improvements phases for this off season. So for my third improvements phase, which was 15, 16 weeks, I was able to train legs properly, and just be more aware of my knee, and what it was doing and what I was doing during sets as well. So I had to deal with that. And then obviously just the standard off-season things with forcing food, standard, my food, which actually talking to quite a lot of people, they've had to push food much harder than me. But my peak food got up to about, on high days, around 7,000 calories, which is about 1,000 gram of carbs, about 375 gram of protein, about 100 gram of fat, I think, off the top of my head. They might not add up to 7,000, but I got to incorporate like off-plan meals, and I didn't really track them. I just had 2 a week on my high days, which high days were legs and what was my other one? Legs and delts, like a push day, or a pull day, or a pull day on Saturday. So yeah, food. You've got to push it at some point. You have to push it at some point, especially if you want to make a massive difference to the physique. There has to be an element of pushing the limits with food, and that's exactly what we did. And we knew we were going to have to do that. I knew what to expect. I probably, this was the first time I got up to 300 pounds as well. Peak body weight was about 315, 316 pounds, which is about 144 kilo, I think. Probably one of the worst things that I experienced during this phase was the lower back pumps. I remember back when I was, climbing the scales every week, seeing about 0.5 to a kilo gain every single week. I remember the lower back pumps were insane. From the minute I got up in the morning, from the minute I went to bed at night, lower back bumps were present. Let's just say that. It was very, very uncomfortable. I had a lot of work done on it as well. I had a lot of sports massage work done on it. I do my own stretching, but it's just a weight on the body. And because you're forcing the scale, you are forcing the food down, and kind of wanting to see progress within the scales each week. So you are going to expect to have these, things come out of nowhere. And lower back punch was one of them. So I'm all right now. Body weight's dropped to about 141. So lower back pumps completely go after I dropped like 2 kilo. But putting those extra kilos on, like getting to new body weights, I always struggle with lower back bumps, and it's nasty. It gets into training. We had to take out stiff leg deadlifts, RDLs, because of my lower back. Just not being able to do anything else after doing my RDLs just because of body weight, really. But other than that, really, it was fine. Training was really, really good. My thoughts on training is always progressive overload, so I want to progress every single week in the off season. And I see no reason why you can't do that. So that is always a goal of mine, is to improve training every single week, no matter what you're going through in life. You should be able to progress training as long as you got your meals in, as long as you're staying hydrated, as long as you're getting sleep in, you should be good. Bit of product placement there, but I started working with ESN as well during this off season, so that was pretty cool. I've been with them now for about 3 or 4 months. So if you want anything from ESN, I would highly recommend anything, but definitely their vitamin line, protein, pre-workout, aminos. What else? They've got the heart support on there, digestive enzymes, really good. So if you want anything from the website, use Henry at checkout, which will give you a decent discount on whatever products you're wanting to buy. So yeah, be much appreciated if you supported for sure. But get on TSN. They're a new company coming out. They recently joined with I think Roaring Revive hasn't come out yet, but they're in the talks of that, which is exciting because that will take us into America, which is cool. So I know a lot of my clients want to kind of try and use it as well, the ESN stuff, and I'm like, we don't actually sell there, not yet anyway. So, but yeah. So yeah, what I wanted to touch on was sleep. Now, at some point in your off season, if you are pushing the limits as hard as you can, there may come a time where sleep might be slightly put on the back burner. The priorities that you choose when it comes down to this is obviously up to you. For me, I would rather get the food in than get the extra hour or two of sleep. And that's just me. That's just how I saw my off season. I saw the productivity that I was having through the food that was going in, and I knew that I could kind of nap in the day for like an hour or two. Not every day, but some days if I had to catch up, I would make time to do so. So I wasn't too fussed about it, but it did kind of move my routine a bit. So as you probably know, if you've been watching for a while, I've always been a 6 a.m. trainer. I've always been a fasted trainer. Somebody who works, trains in the morning. I'll have my pre-workout meal before bed. I wake up, I have my supplements, my pre-workout shake, and straight to the gym and train. I had to push this forward from about 6 a.m. to about 8 or 9 a.m. because I wasn't getting enough sleep. And I was going to bed around 12, 1 in the morning. Reason being, you got to think, if I'm getting to the gym for 8 or 9 now, that means a 3-hour training session is 12, okay? So that's, I'm still fasted at this point, so my first meal doesn't go in till midday. And you're thinking about the amount of food I'm eating. So realistically, I've got about 12 hours to eat 5 or 6 meals, which makes sense. So yeah, that's just how it happened. Once I get stuck into a routine, I'm very, very routine about that, and I'm very consistent with it, even if it's a bad routine. And I didn't enjoy this routine at all. I'm not saying I did this because I wanted to lie in. This not the case. I was still up at 6 a.m. I just had to wait a bit till I was able to go in and train. I just didn't feel like I was doing myself justice to go in and train it that early when I only went to bed at midnight, 1 in the morning. So that's kind of what I was going through in this off season. It's the first time I've had to push my training forward a bit. But now currently, literally just started prep this week. We're looking at bringing the session back to 6 a.m., 7 in the morning. So that's the plan for me, getting to bed earlier now because food's going to start dropping. So we're kind of done with that off-season routine now, which, can stay far away. It just comes down to, I think anyway, what I came up with was just me growing into a bigger human, lugging around 315 pounds. The body doesn't really want to do that. So the fatigue is massive. That's the biggest thing I found this off season is the amount of fatigue that there is by doing absolutely nothing. By doing, even on a rest day when I don't train, I've got 20 minutes of cardio to do, which in the off season I was doing in the evening, and just the fatigue all day, just from living at this body weight. Obviously the heart is having to push, blood around the body, and it's tough. It's tough on the body. So that's kind of, being real about anything. That's like the most real I can be. It's very, very fatiguing. My digestion all this off-season has been spot on, really. And I, take a lot of digestive supplements for that because I know they work. I started using majority of them at the start of this push-up. Literally just as I finished my show, the morning after I was starting the digestive supplements, so I've been consistent with them every day. Definitely seen a difference in digestion and just a benefit there in terms of gut. I think me fasting in the morning as well does help. I'm not getting up and eating. I'm literally fasted for about 5 or 6 hours before my first meal goes in. So I think that does have a big effect on digestion as well, and how my body can process all this food and put it away and put it to good use, and which is probably why we've seen the body make 0.5 to a kilo increases in body weight a week, and how I've been able to do that, I think, is just to do with these little things in my routine that I'm doing. So yeah, I think I talked enough on off-season. Off-season's gone well. If you followed it on Instagram as well, you've seen all my training, every single training session. Off-season went well. In terms of body weight, we went from, like I said, 109, 110, up to 145. That was the extent of the push. In pretty good condition, pretty good nick or condition, yeah. So start prep. This week we started prep today, actually. That's why I want to do it today. So started prep today, like official start date. In my head, I started like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but we had like a 6-week health phase, and like I said, now we're pushing into prep. So we're about 19 weeks out from our first show of the year, which is a long time for our first show. In the past, my last off-season, my last prep was in 2023. My first show when we started prep was 11 weeks in. Now, I wasn't completely peeled for that show, but I was ready. I came third in that show because we kind of did it on purpose to get a qualification for finals. I wasn't peeled. The 2 guys that beat me were just leaner and drier. I was, I drank 6 litres of water the day before and 2 litres of water on the day. So it's, we knew what we were going in for. We knew that was kind of just a trial run. We wanted to try a few things before the day before show, and around the peak. We didn't really peak for that show either, so I stayed on the same nutrition all through the week, really, and then just manipulated stuff the day before, 2 days before with carbs, and I had normal water intake and everything like that. So I did sweat a bit on stage, so I wasn't dry at all, but we did enough to take a 3rd place, which was fine. I wasn't happy in the moment. I wasn't happy at all because I don't compete to come 3rd. I only compete to win, and that's the expectation I have for myself. But I didn't realise at the time that Luke knew kind of what I was going to get myself into. Luke didn't put me in that show to win, really. It was kind of just a test. It was a trial show for us to then do what we need to do and go the next week and win that show in Birmingham, which then took us on to British finals, which was 4 weeks later, and obviously we won that as well. So that was just a process of, took us 5 weeks from being, so it was about a 16-week prep. So this is going to be a long prep. It's going to be a long prep, but we're dealing with a different body this time round, a much heavier body. So we know from, not experience, but we know from facts of bodybuilding that a heavier body, a bigger body, a more muscular body is harder to bring in than someone who's a bit less muscular. Things just play a bit more. You can miss the mark a bit more, and it's harder to get it back. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how Luke deals with it and I deal with it, and how the look comes together as well, because it's just a completely different physique. It's completely different. So I'm just interested to see what it would look like, to be honest, and how I flow, everything like that, my weak points. If I'm still going to have weak points for sure. So posing might be slightly different, and we're just going to take it from there. But very much looking forward to getting back on stage this year. And the plan with the goals in hand, not going to talk about yet. I just want to say that I'm 19 weeks out from my first show. Don't think I need to say much more than that right now. But I have certain goals in my head that I want to achieve this year. I feel like with the productive off-season that we did, and the body weight I am now, probably going to be looking at standing on stage. If everything goes to plan, and from my experience with preps, we're probably going to be looking at like 120 on stage, which is about 270, which is decent, which is all right. That's probably 170, at least 170. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I was to talk about what's going on in my head right now, what I'm thinking about is if I'm 270 on stage this year, I'm probably looking at like another 20 to 30 pounds of muscle to be competitive in, I don't want to say it, but be competitive in like an Olympia level call out. Obviously that's going to take years, God knows how many years, but that in my head, if I was on stage at 290, 300 pounds, obviously it depends what the look is like, but there's going to be enough tissue there to be competitive, I think, with my height, structure. If I can fill it out, that's obviously the goal. I know it's going to take a long time to get there, and we've got a lot of stepping stones to get over before we actually get there. So I'm kind of just enjoying the process we're in right now. But I just wanted to say what's on my mind, because I just want to be real, of what I'm actually thinking. Everyone thinks it, no one just says it. So, but yeah, that's where we're at. 19 weeks out. Food dropped today, so I actually feel all right today. I was thinking when I was doing my steps, I actually feel fine. I think we've been pushing food for so long, my body's kind of just adjusted to that. I've got a lot of storage of food, I think, just from forcing food down and everything. I feel like there's a lot of food for my body to burn off before it starts to get hungry. So I've got 2 meals left for tonight, about 1,000 steps to do, and then bed and leg day tomorrow. But in terms of food, let's get a beer. What we're on training day is, at the moment, so week 1 training day food, 350 protein, 650 carbs, 60 fat. Rest day nutrition, 350 protein, 500 carbs, 70 fat. Bear in mind, my food on training day was about 900 gram of carbs and 100 gram of fat. So it's quite a lot of food drop. Like, in terms of rice meals, the rice portions have gone from 150 grams uncooked weight down to 90 grams uncooked weight. So it's quite a drop. But that's what we need to kickstart this dieting phase. Cardio's been increased by 1 day, so up to 4 days with cardio. And then steps being increased to 10K from 8K. And that's about it. That is about it. So yeah, I just wanted to give that update before we start, because I always give an update before prep on the off season, how everything's gone, and then the plan for prep. So I might give hints here and there on what shows I'm going to be doing later on, or I might not and just do it, because from what I want to do, I don't really have a leg to stand on really yet in the ranks. So I'd kind of rather just go unnoticed and show up and do my thing. This year anyway, to be honest. And whatever the outcome is, but I need to start, in terms of competitive bodybuilding, need to stand with the best. I need to start pushing myself within that. You know, we've done the right thing in the past with competing, 100%. But I want to complete that and move on, which this year is that turning point. So it's exciting. You know, I have my full trust in Luke and what he says. What he says goes all the time, especially in prep, because I kind of just like to execute and do what he says, you know. So that is the plan. I'll obviously keep you updated every week. I'm going to bring the videos out weekly now, because it's obviously prep. So we'll do that with this series. If there's anything you want to see or want to talk about, you know, full day of eating, I know someone said that they wanted to see that. I'll get that done. I'm quite sad actually I didn't get to do one. Or I didn't do one when I was in, you know, peak off season. So I might cover a bit on that. Well, I did a bit in this really. Food's pretty much exactly the same. It's just lower, to be honest. So I might just go over my off-season food as well in the full day of eating. So yeah, I'll keep you updated. Like I said, if there's anything you want to see, let me know. Stay updated on the Instagram as well, henry.taylor, with daily updates, physique updates, training videos, bits and bobs on there. Remember, ESN, Henry at checkout. If you want to grab any of your supplements, then feel free to. But yeah, until then, we'll call this one off, and we'll see you next week.